In 1873, Congress quietly established something I call a secret trust for the American people. And for more than a century, this fund has quietly grown, untouched, into a $150 trillion fortune. That's enough to pay off our entire national debt 4 times over. If you divided it by the number of households in the U.S., it would be enough to turn every American family into a millionaire. Now, this trust should have enriched generations of Americans. That was its intended purpose. Instead, for more than a century, it's remained sealed off from the public. But that's all about to change. Thanks to President Trump. You see, for the first time in more than 40 years, the president has the authority to release this secret trust. It's all thanks to a 2024 Supreme Court ruling. That ruling had paved the way for President Trump to unleash this $150 trillion wealth reserve, and he has clearly stated his intentions to do so. Look, if you understand what's coming next, and you take the proper steps today, you could watch your net worth soar in the coming years.
So, Jim Rickards, an American lawyer, investment banker, and author of Currency Wars, who held senior positions at Citibank, and he also worked on Wall Street for over 35 years, has said some pretty insane things about what's to come, not only for the US dollar, but for gold and digital currencies, with the US dollar facing hyperinflation and vulnerable to attacks from foreign governments through the accumulation of gold and the establishment of a new global currency. He also claims he advised the US Department of Defense, along with the Pentagon, on global financial issues. And what he is saying is coming next will blow your mind. Plus, with the Pope's recent death on April 21st of 2025, and shortly after that, Donald Trump posting this photo of him dressed as the Pope, seemingly trolling the general public. Well, in this video, we're going to dive into the deeper meaning of this photo and what Trump is secretly planning behind the scenes that has to do directly with the reevaluation of gold, what he has to say about the crypto market, why central banks around the world are transitioning back to gold, and also their plan to accumulate trillions of dollars of crypto that will cause Bitcoin, XRP, and the rest of the crypto market to absolutely explode. And Ripple's secret plan to become a bank, and why right now is the best time to lock in, because a great awakening is coming not only to America, but to the globe. And also, what the Gematria calculator has to say about the phrase, the Great Awakening, that you're not going to want to miss. So if you guys have been seeing the partnerships and the acquisitions that Ripple as a company has been making over the years, you haven't seen nothing yet. Because when we discuss the global liquidity cycle, it now makes perfect sense why selling my condo and my $200,000 car to buy more XRP in this video over 6 months ago was one of the best decisions I ever made. Now the real question is, with the recent explosion of gold over $3,000 per ounce, will they reevaluate XRP as well? Or has XRP reached its peak for this bull run cycle? And over the next 6 to 12 months, are we just going to head into a bear market wiping out over 90% of investors? So if you're feeling bullish, if you're feeling blessed, comment 777. And if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, you know what to do. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to kick this video off with another giveaway. We're giving away $100 worth of XRP. If you want to win, all you need to do is follow us on Twitter at BullRunnersHQ. You're going to see a pinned post right here. Simply like the pinned post, comment XRP on the post, and then sign up for Blowfin using our affiliate link. When you go through our link, you get a 10% deposit bonus up to $50K, so that's about $5,000. If you deposit $1,000, you get $100. So they're running a promo right now that you guys can benefit from, and you can use that deposit bonus to trade XRP or other cryptocurrencies if you want. And then we're going to announce the winner on our daily email newsletter on Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So all you need to do to subscribe to the newsletter is click the link in the description below. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. You just click the button, put in your best email address, and just by doing that, you'll get access to our new book called Altcoin Secrets, the Underground Guidebook to Become a Crypto Millionaire, where inside the book, you'll unlock the 23 secrets to pinpoint explosive altcoins, time your entries and exits like a pro, build a bulletproof portfolio, and break free from the rat race by outsmarting the 99% and joining the 1%. So check that out. The link will be below, and we hope to pick you. With that being said, we have a lot to talk about in today's video because this guy right here, Jim Rickards, has said a lot over the years. And with the recent death of the Pope on April 21st, this picture right here from Trump has a much deeper meaning. It's pure psychological warfare because the Vatican isn't just a church. It's a bank, it's a fortress, and a vault for the old guard's secrets. If Trump is holding the gold, the archives, or the blackmail files, this is him flashing the crown that he just stole. And while a lot of people claim that it's mocking, it's simply him marking his territory. Because to everyone complaining about that picture, well, those people were silent during this right here, during the Olympics, during this absolute freak show right here, and the biggest mockery in sports history. And so no doubt it's disrespectful, but we need to put our emotions aside here and look at the deeper meaning for why he's posting this. Because for years, Trump has said that he's going to drain the swamp. And recently, we have seen some of the most powerful figures either pass away or step down from their positions. For example, Klaus Schwab, the former chair of the World Economic Forum, stepped down from his position right after Trump got in office. And next comes the auditing of Fort Knox to see if the gold's there, hopefully by the end of this summer. Now, here's one thing that's really interesting, because after the Pope's death, this picture was posted April 26th of this year with Trump and Melania. And the same picture was posted back in 2022 from Mr. Poole's account, leading a lot of people to believe that this was time travel, including myself. I was a little confused when I saw this because I thought this was after the funeral, and I'm like, how could he have posted this in 2022? But it was simply an old picture that was reposted by the White House along with 20 of their favorite photos in honor of Melania's birthday. And as you can see here on the left, this is the Pope's funeral, and on the right, this was back in 2017 when they visited, with different hairstyles, different headpiece, whatever you call this thing, the crow's nest on top, and then the dress right here is different as well too. And so that picture was taken during his first administration before Biden, and this is when he went around the world to say that we have it all. And the same morning that the Pope died, Trump posted this sentence at 3:09 p.m. saying, "He who has the gold makes the rules." So that's not a quote, that's a claim of ownership. So you remember the 2017 capitulation tour in Saudi Arabia, Israel, the Vatican. It wasn't diplomacy, it was a message. And that message is the old guard is done. There wasn't a lot of major press conferences at that time, just quiet compliance. And if rumors are true, gold and lots of it. So assets have been changing hands. Vaults were opened, and now 8 years later, the scoreboard lights up. The Pope's death, guys, isn't random. It's the signal that the spiritual cover for the globalist system is gone. The one that they all bowed to vanished. And Trump wastes no time. He declares who holds the collateral, who writes the terms, who sets the rules, and who dictates the next monetary order. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's not theory, that's Trump announcing control. And while the world is watching the Vatican right now, while the market prepares for gold reevaluation, while Iraq, the BRICS nations, and XRP loads the next system, Trump just pulled the curtain back and said it plainly. We hold the gold, we set the rules, the era of paper is over. You're not watching politics, you're watching the reset go kinetic. The Pope is dead, the gold is accounted for, and Trump is playing 5D chess to make the final moves on the scoreboard. Now here's where this gets crazy, because gold has already reclaimed the $3,300 level, and when many investors believe that gold is overbought and thinking that it's going to sell off, right now, we are in the midst of a monetary realignment with foreign central banks transitioning towards gold. And in blue here, you can see gold as a percentage of global international reserves since 1972 to roughly 1988. Gold reserves were really high, and then gold reserves drastically dropped. Whereas in white, you can see foreign holdings of treasuries as a percentage of government debt outstanding to hold treasury bills, bonds, and notes went through the roof. And so excessive treasury issuances without major buyers has been going down, whereas central banks accumulating gold at a record pace is going up. So follow the money, guys. Don't just listen to me. Look at the facts. If central banks around the globe are accumulating more gold and the price of gold is absolutely skyrocketing, that tells us what is coming next. Also, look at this. The top image is the Biden Oval Office when Joe Biden was in office, and the bottom is Trump's Oval Office. So take a look at how many gold accents Trump has added. Now, a lot of people are just going to look at this image as another example of Trump's braggadocious style, or you can see it as a very clear signal that Trump is bringing back gold to our monetary system. And not only that, but I posted this video about 7 months ago. It got about 89,000 views because of what Jim Rickards said in this video. And he also laid out some key influential people that are a part of the IMF, the Fed, Wall Street, central banks, Bilderberg, etc., that are part of the new financial system. And I also brought up interviews from all of these people and what they had to say that leads to Ripple and XRP and the global financial monetary system for 2030 from the World Economic Forum that they have been working on for the past few decades.
I was having dinner with a friend not long ago in New York City. We met at a place called Oriole, which is in Midtown. My dinner companion that night was a senior advisor to BlackRock. As you may know, BlackRock is now the largest asset manager on the planet. It directly manages $5 trillion in assets, and it oversees another $11 trillion through its Aladdin platform. That means one firm controls more money than the GDPs of China, Russia, and Japan combined. Anyway, my dinner companion happens to work directly for BlackRock's CEO. As we nursed our white wine and the evening wore on, she let something slip. If I remember her words, she said something like, "They want to tell us we can't sell." What was she talking about? Who was she talking about? I placed a few calls, first to my contacts in Washington, then to a few people on Wall Street. Soon I was on a plane for a series of meetings to London, to Geneva, back to New York, then down to South America. As I began connecting the dots, a pattern emerged. It revealed a network of more than 189 individuals positioned inside the world's major financial institutions. Some of them hold senior positions inside the IMF, World Bank, and every central bank in the G20, including our own Federal Reserve. These elites share one vision, and they're about to make it a reality. That vision is one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. They've worked for years behind the scenes preparing to realize that vision. They've literally rigged the laws of international finance. Everything is basically in place right now, and there's essentially no way to stop this from happening. When the crisis hits, they'll flip the switch, freezing the global financial system. That will give them time to reset the world economy according to their vision. As the coming crisis unfolds, President Trump will be powerless to stop it. In fact, trying to stop them would probably weaken the president's power altogether.
That is amazing, Jim, really. So what did these elites want from your contact at BlackRock?
Basically, they want to classify BlackRock as too big to fail. The technical term is Systemically Important Financial Institution, or SIFI. That designation normally applies to banks, such as Bank of America. If your bank gets the SIFI label, it means the government will bail you out first in a crisis. But it also means you must turn over control of your bank until the crisis subsides. In this case, they're trying to reclassify BlackRock, an asset manager, as too big to fail. If they succeed, they'll be able to freeze BlackRock when the crisis hits. BlackRock clients won't be able to sell. They won't be able to buy either. Their accounts will go dark indefinitely. And the elite operatives will take control of BlackRock's assets remotely via the internet. But our research shows that their ICE 9 plan goes much, much deeper than that.
Now, you refer to their plan as ICE 9. You just said that. What does that mean?
It's a reference to the Kurt Vonnegut novel, Cat's Cradle. In the book, a mad scientist creates a new form of water molecule called ICE 9. When it comes in contact with other water molecules, it freezes them at room temperature. One drop of ICE 9 can freeze the whole ocean. And that's what these elite operatives are about to do to the world economy.
Now, can you share with our viewers exactly who these operatives are and what their ultimate goal might be?
Like I said, John, more than 189 elite agents have slowly wormed their way into leadership positions across the board. They now sit at or near the head of the IMF, the World Bank, and even our own Federal Reserve. They also control much of what happens at the central banks of China, Russia, India, Brazil, Canada, and Europe. As you know, these institutions form a kind of global superstructure. It forms a kind of snare net encircling all nations. Their leaders aren't democratically elected. They're not accountable to you and me. They're beyond the reach of government and citizens, and yet they hold the fate of the global financial system in their hands. To get a sense of how they operate, imagine an array of floating spheres. One sphere is labeled IMF. One is labeled Fed. One is labeled Bilderberg. One is labeled Wall Street. One is labeled central banks. One is labeled intelligence agencies. One is labeled media, and so on. The elites inhabit all of these spheres, and together the network forms a kind of 3D Venn diagram. As I see it, regardless of what sphere they inhabit, the elites all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. All of their actions are geared toward moving that agenda forward.
Now, are you able to share the identities of these elites with our viewers?
We've identified more than 189 individuals who are in many cases hiding in plain sight. Regardless, they all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. A short list would include Christine Lagarde, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF; Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England; Raghuram G. Rajan, Vice Chairman of the Bank for International Settlements; Haruhiko Kuroda, Governor of the Bank of Japan; William C. Dudley, President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York; Agustin Carstens, Governor of the Bank of Mexico; Janet Yellen, Chairman of the Board of the Federal Reserve System; Mario Draghi, President of the European Central Bank; Zhu Min, former Deputy Managing Director of the IMF; Zhou Zhiuquan, Governor of the People's Bank of China; Robert E. Rubin, Chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. This A-list of central bankers and other elites is just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, not one of these elites will tell you outright what's going on, but I've seen and heard enough to connect the dots for myself. Not long ago, for example, I met with one of their senior operatives. He's a leading economist who served as the chairman of the Federal Reserve during the last crisis. He's considered one of the most influential minds in banking today. We met privately during a conclave in Seoul, South Korea. Of course, I'm talking about Ben Bernanke. I came away from my meeting with him stunned and convinced that ICE 9 was real. Not long before that, I set up a one-on-one meeting with another member of the network. His name is Zhu Min, the former deputy governor of China's central bank. Until recently, he served as deputy managing director of the International Monetary Fund. Zhu is a brilliant guy, like Bernanke, and he's pleasant and well-meaning. There's no doubt in my mind that he's also a member of the elite network preparing to impose ICE 9 on millions of Americans. But I wasn't done with my research. I have since met with dozens of senior officials, intelligence analysts, and former Wall Street colleagues. My quest led to a final meeting, a face-to-face summit with the head of Bilderberg. We met at Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, and he was very eager to get my take on the euro as a currency. I was happy to provide it, of course, in exchange for some valuable intelligence. As I say in my new book, he did not have horns. In fact, he gave me a nice gift when we parted ways, a blue Swedish vase. I keep it in my writing studio at my home in Connecticut. But my point is, I came away from all three meetings convinced of one thing. When the next crisis hits, the elites are planning to freeze the financial system, and they'll replace it with a new system, one not based on the U.S. dollar. When that happens, we'll wake up to a very strange and disturbing new reality.
And for our viewers that are watching today, what might their reality look like that morning? How does this manifest?
First, they'll have gone to bed knowing that a massive financial crisis was underway. But when they wake up, they'll find it has worsened and the contagion has spread worldwide. When they go to withdraw money, their ATM will say, closed temporarily. When they go to sell stocks, their account will say, transaction not available. When they go to their local business, that business will only accept cash if it's open. As citizens realize they're being barred from their money, riots will erupt. It's going to get really bad really quickly.
How would such a freeze actually work? And wouldn't that be highly illegal?
Well, it wouldn't be illegal technically because they've been quietly laying the groundwork for years. They've rigged the financial laws, changed the rules of the game to allow this to happen. The stage is set. They have the levers in place. The lights are positioned. Now someone just needs to flick a switch and they'll impose ICE 9 rapidly. And again, all of this will be legal because they've rigged the system in their favor. Here in the U.S., for example, Congress pushed through something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA. This allows the government to freeze accounts, assets, even whole institutions at will. The only condition is that there's some threat to national security with a foreign connection. Of course, with a global market, every financial crisis has a foreign connection. Any systemic crisis fits the bill. And the thing is, when the next crisis hits, it's going to be so bad, President Trump won't have any choice but to go along with the elite's plan.
Wow. That is, you have to admit, that sounds somewhat hard to believe. Now, how could these operatives actually freeze a whole country's financial system?
Well, fortunately, we have some recent real-life examples to study. The elites have been conducting a series of dry runs for years, leading up to ICE 9. Look at Cyprus, for example. A few years ago, the Cypriot economy was in trouble, especially the banks. The IMF stepped in and loaned Cyprus $10 billion, but the loan came with strings. Now pay attention because this is precisely what they're going to do, but imagine it on a global scale. So in exchange for the capital injection, the IMF demanded control over the Cypriot banking system. More specifically, the IMF froze the entire system, literally every bank in the country. And they did that to ensure the IMF's demands were met, including strict capital controls. So how did all of this impact regular citizens? Their local ATMs went dark. Even the bank branches closed, permanently in some cases. Citizens could not withdraw cash. They couldn't even transfer funds from one account to the other. What came next? Wealth extraction on a grand scale. The IMF basically stole 6 to 10% of all the cash in the Cypriot bank accounts. How did the elites justify this? They called it a levy, the price regular citizens had to pay for their government's missteps. Keep in mind, these asset confiscations were done at the balance sheet level with the institutions themselves. They never had to confiscate individual accounts. They froze every account by controlling a handful of the country's biggest banks. When the next crisis hits, we're going to see this here in the U.S. and around the world, and it'll be a highly coordinated global attack on the entire system simultaneously.
Now, not only is Trump posting about gold and the price of gold skyrocketing a coincidence here, but also Trump creating a strategic Bitcoin crypto reserve with assets like XRP, Solana, Cardano. But listen to what he just said about crypto.
I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. And
It's new. It's very popular. It's very hot. If you look at the market, when the market went down, that stayed much stronger than other aspects of the market. But I want crypto because a lot of people, millions of people want it. I don't know if you know that Biden went after it violently, and then before the election, he changed his tune entirely. His head of the SEC, everybody changed their tune. You know why? Because there were hundreds of millions of people that are participating in crypto, and they wanted to get their votes.
And so when the president of the leading world power is saying this, companies are going to follow. And this is why $11 trillion asset manager BlackRock is saying that central banks are looking to buy Bitcoin.
Crypto is now about to decouple from U.S. tech stocks. Many are talking about sell U.S. assets kind of behavior in the global markets. Do you think this is the moment?
Well, crypto over the long run is decoupled from U.S. tech stocks. I think what you have to look at is, are you looking on a short-term basis or are you looking over a longer-term basis? Over a short-term basis, you can see all types of different assets have rising correlations to each other. And in fact, if you look at the last few weeks under more market uncertainty, you've seen everything from stocks and bonds to crypto trading with higher correlations. But if you zoom out, you tend to see the kind of longer-term fundamental thesis of something like Bitcoin really drive it to behave differently than traditional assets. The long-term correlation between U.S. stocks and Bitcoin is more like 0.2 or 0.3. It's a lowly correlated asset. And it's because what drives stocks, which tends to be things like higher growth, higher certainty, lower geopolitical risk, many of those things actually are kind of opposite drivers for Bitcoin. Bitcoin thrives when you have more uncertainty and are looking for something that's going to behave differently. So fundamentally, this should behave like an uncorrelated asset. And I think as we continue to see more time play out in this uncertain environment, you will see a dispersion between these assets.
Yeah, so Jay, what we're talking about here is crypto or Bitcoin as alpha, right? Uncorrelated assets and also returns. So directionally, tell me, right, if this tariff situation globally, right, doesn't resolve itself, drags on, or fingers crossed, gets worse, right? We can probably expect stocks to take a further leg down, bonds to go down to $1 as well, and for crypto and Bitcoin to continue going up. Would that be fair?
We would think over the long term, if this is the trajectory of kind of greater uncertainty around the world, that things like gold and things like Bitcoin should continue to go up. It is this type of uncertainty where people are looking for alternatives, parts of their portfolio that are going to behave separately from stocks and bonds. We've seen it in the flows. We've seen it in how investors are positioning. We've seen significant inflows into gold ETFs. We've seen significant inflows into Bitcoin. And this is all because people are looking for those assets that will behave differently.
So let me ask you, right? I mean, it'd be easy to sort of pin it on the president and the trade war, right? But this whole diversification away from traditional assets and into things like gold and also like crypto, right? Probably began 3-4 years ago, did it not? Or at least 2-3 years ago, right? Because a lot of people pinpoint Russia's most recent invasion of Ukraine and, how $300 billion worth of Russian central bank money got seized and is sitting somewhere in Belgium right now as a trigger for countries like China, say, to stop recycling their surplus into treasuries, or not as much, and more into things like gold and into crypto. I mean, that's fair, right?
Well, if you look at a few things, one is if you look at central banks around the world, a continued movement towards diversification beyond just holding dollars is something that's been happening for decades. So the switch from just holding dollars to holding gold to looking at other types of assets like Bitcoin is a trend that's been years in the making. I think if you take a step back, at BlackRock in 2023, we released our new framework for thematic investing called Mega Forces. And that was the first time we really identified geopolitical fragmentation as a mega force that is driving the world forward over the next several decades. This is materializing in a lot of different ways. It is geopolitical risk between countries. It is materializing in policies like reshoring in the United States. And I think directly related to that geopolitical fragmentation megaforce has been the rise of things like Bitcoin, as people see more destabilization in geopolitics, resulting in the need for more alternative assets.
And when we compare cryptos like XRP or even Bitcoin to gold, listen to this.
And then finally, always like to talk about Bitcoin to gold. And again, gold going parabolic did take this ratio down, but you'll notice that it did not break the uptrend that is in place and that we think will remain in place. Bitcoin did act more as a risk-on asset in the market's recent correction. It behaved like the NASDAQ, unlike gold. But we believe that it was just correcting to this trend line because the Bitcoin price went up so much more than the gold price last year. So we think that this trend line will continue to move up if we're right that we're moving back into a risk-on environment. Now, the gold, why did gold act as risk-off, but Bitcoin not do so? I just described one reason. Bitcoin was way ahead of the gold price, so that is one reason. But I think the other reason is we weren't in a financial collapse like 08, 09, and the banking system was, or the counterparty risk in the banking system was not called into question. So we think the flight to safety into gold was more of a, hey, let's readjust and get this back into some kind of trend line.
So if we see an appreciation in Bitcoin, we're most likely going to see an appreciation in XRP. Now, this is not financial advice. As always, these videos are purely for education, informational purposes only, and some speculation as well too, because we see a lot of crazy stuff posted out there. And the goal of this channel is to help decipher what's true, what's false, and also what's possible until all of this unfolds at the end of this bull run cycle. But look at this, Ripple is going to become a bank, according to Stellar Rippler right here. And when it does apply and get a banking license, everything changes. This isn't just a tech company anymore. This is the future Fed wrapped in blockchain. So here's what happens next. Most people think Ripple is just a cross-border payments company. Wrong. Ripple is building the infrastructure layer for the next financial system, and acquiring a banking license is the final piece. With one license, they can unlock unfiltered access to global money. And you either have a money transmitter license or you don't. There is no in between. So right here, Ripple has acquired tons of state licenses and registrations for their money transmitter licenses in Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, etc. The list goes on and on and on. Why would they be doing this if they weren't planning on having some banking-like capabilities? So what happens when a tech company becomes a bank? Well, that gives them direct access to central bank systems, ability to issue loans, credit, and even custody assets, legal power to handle both fiat and crypto, seamless integration with CBDCs and stablecoins, elimination of intermediaries, Nostro and Vostro accounts. So Ripple's partnerships with the banks isn't just to lock arms, it's to completely take over the entire system. And they're already preparing for it. Ripple has US regulatory clarity post SEC case, 25 billion plus in assets, global payment corridors across 70 plus countries, CBDC pilots in Bhutan, Peru, Montenegro, and more, deep ties with the Bank for International Settlements, the IMF, and central banks. And all that's missing is a banking license. So why would Ripple even want one? Well, because being a licensed bank equals instant legitimacy, global access, and regulatory immunity. Instead of fighting regulators, Ripple would become the infrastructure that regulators use. You can't ban what's a part of the system. And if you guys didn't watch my previous video, here's a quick clip from it explaining how Ripple became the first blockchain company to join the ISO 20022 registration management group. Also, number two, it's no coincidence that in 2020, Ripple became the first blockchain company to join the ISO 20022 standards body, allowing them to influence the development for distributed ledger technology. Ripple officially became a member of the standards body. Now, what that means is that back in 2020, Ripple joined the ISO 20022 registration management group, allowing Ripple to influence the development and evolution of ISO 20022. That's like being the first member picked on Dodgeball and then telling the team captain who you want to choose on the team. It's like being the first player in the NFL draft pick, guys. And holding XRP is like owning the rookie card for that player. So there's only select few cryptocurrencies that are compliant with the ISO messaging standard, enabling those cryptocurrencies to integrate seamlessly with banks and financial institutions that are also adopting this standard. But it doesn't mean the banks are going to use them right away. It just simply simplifies the connection through a standardized API process that's going to reduce operational costs and improve efficiency for Ripple's 300 plus banking partners. So as you guys already know, ISO 20022 is what SWIFT is requiring all of the banks globally to shift to continue doing business. Well, if Ripple was the first blockchain company a part of that group, that tells you everything you need to know. But there's more to this, because a banking license would allow Ripple to issue Ripple branded stablecoins beyond just RLUSD, offer institutional custody, become a gateway for tokenized real-world assets, legally hold reserves in multiple jurisdictions, act as a digital clearinghouse for CBDCs. This isn't just banking, this is reprogramming money. So if you still think this is not true, well, Ripple already acquired Medico, a crypto custody firm trusted by banks. It's been expanding into real estate tokenization and trade finance. It even offered $5 billion to acquire Circle, the issuer of USDC. They've been hiring aggressively for regulatory and compliance roles. This is not something a startup company does, guys. This is something you do if you want to form a monopoly. So imagine this. Ripple is granted a digital banking license. It launches Ripple Bank. That's custodial plus DeFi services. It holds treasuries, issues credit, moves dollars on chain. It connects directly with FedNow and Swift. It becomes the back end of CBDC distribution, all powered by XRP. So what does this mean for XRP? Well, if Ripple becomes a bank, XRP becomes the liquidity spine where CBDCs flow through XRP, stablecoins flow through XRP, tokenized securities, real estate, and other real-world assets flow through XRP. And as XRP bridges these assets, it gains real demand, the kind that central banks can't ignore. So if what Jim Rickards said at the beginning of this video about Title 30 of the US code laws related to mineral land and mining, with its foundation in the General Mining Act of 1872, passed by the 42nd Congress, the act established a framework for managing mineral resources on federal lands, allowing citizens to explore, claim, and extract valuable minerals like gold, silver, and other minerals without royalty payments to the government. And so it's called a national trust fund, and this concept refers to the idea that the nation's mineral wealth is held in trust for public benefit, accessible to individuals and companies under regulated conditions, which could be why the US debt clock is posting these cryptic messages saying stuff like all in, USA wealth discovery, with the US national debt being wiped out. Guys, if $150 trillion from the Mining Act of 1872 is real, then could that be what they use to wipe out the $36 trillion debt? Because right here on usdebtclock.org, it shows a zero with a slash through it, symbolizing the debt being wiped out. And right now we are seeing a great awakening across the nation, with the Department of Government Efficiency uncovering fraud, posting pictures like this with Jerome Powell saying he can't be fired from the Federal Reserve, saying that the money of the future will be based on redeemable assets like gold, silver, and other commodities to bypass the Federal Reserve's banking cartel, causing assets like gold to break out, also silver to break out, swapping debt for wealth this year in 2025, where the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant prosperity, creating a great awakening. And when we look up the phrase Great Awakening on the Gematria calculator, it comes up as the same number as reevaluation, stellar XLM, financial reset, a star is born, which could mean TCRB, reparations, which could be for the Fed, also Marty McFly from Back to the Future, and even new life and wife. So if you're not just ready to make that life-changing money, but potentially that wife-changing money, then it's time to lock in, my friend, because for those that don't know, the Global Liquidity Index is a metric that's used to assess the availability of cash reserves, credit, and overall monetary conditions in the financial system. So in short, when Global Liquidity Index rises, financial markets tend to perform well because of the contribution of liquidity, but specifically gold, silver, precious metals, cryptocurrencies do exceptionally well. And historically speaking, there's an idea that Bitcoin experiences a 4-year cycle because of the halving and the demand that outpaces supply, creating a good environment in which the price tends to rise. And yes, on one side that's true. You know, the NSA, or actually I should say Satoshi, that created Bitcoin, cleverly created the 4-year cycle with Bitcoin's halving in mind. But it's also a weird coincidence that the Global Liquidity Index matches with Bitcoin's 4-year cycle. And so when we look at this chart right here, pairing up Bitcoin's price chart with the Global Liquidity Index in green, we can see right around Bitcoin's halving, each time we've seen a pullback. And this actually was posted when Bitcoin was at $65,000 before the halving. So we saw a rally up to $100,000, then a sell-off after the halving, the consolidation that we've been through over the past few months, and now Bitcoin breaking out back above $90,000. But also, if we look at the Global Liquidity Index, we can see that after Bitcoin's halving, global liquidity is broken out like clockwork. So if you think about it, the Global Liquidity Index should peak roughly in 2026 at the tail end of Bitcoin's 4-year market cycle theory. And so this is why I've been yelling from the top of my lungs over the past year about what's happening for crypto. And I even made this prediction right here when XRP was at 51 cents back in October of 2024. And shortly after that, you can see what happened. XRP exploded to the upside and went from 50 cents upwards of $3. And now XRP has just been sitting at roughly $2 to $3, coiling up, similar to what happened back here in 2017 that I broke down in a previous video. So during the entire bear market and early stage of the bull, XRP remained suppressed. It's the same thing that happened back here from 2015 to 2017. XRP went through a bear market, and during the early stages of the bull, while Bitcoin was breaking out all during this phase during 2016, XRP stayed suppressed. until February of 2017, the explosion took place. XRP rocketed to the upside. It's the same thing that happened in November of 2024. XRP rocketed to the upside. We saw this consolidation phase, and then XRP saw a blow off top. So I do expect XRP to rally higher by the end of this year, and only time will tell. Will I be right? Just like I was right in October of 2024, selling my $200,000 car in my condo to go all in with crypto, making it one of the best decisions that I've ever made? Or will I be wrong, and will XRP turn around from here and just sell off to the downside and go into an early bear market? Because these type of long, boring consolidation periods are the best time to back up the truck all the way to the bank, grab the bags, pack them and stack them, and leave no bags left behind. And in the meantime, what I'm doing to be able to accumulate more XRP is leveraging DeFi liquidity pools. For example, this pool right here, I have about $47,000 in. The yield does fluctuate. So while making this video, it actually dropped from $22,000 to about $17,000. But that's about 36% yield in 30 days, leveraging a Solana to USDC pool, which, as you guys already know, Solana is one of the largest cap projects out there. And if I shift this to over 24 hours, the yield is about $290. So if you want to learn how I'm able to earn over $100 a day in passive income by leveraging DeFi liquidity pools, that gives me the ability to take that yield and put it into XRP. Even if XRP goes lower, I'm just able to accumulate more before XRP breaks out to the upside, whether it's at the end of this year or by 2030. I literally do not care, because I'm just going to continue to keep stacking because I know what I hold. So if you guys want to learn how this is possible, I made a video 2 days and the value was $44,000. And as you can see now, it's $47,000. So I'll keep you guys updated on this liquidity pool, because it does fluctuate a little bit for the yield. But this is actually one of the best ways to maximize your upside in crypto while also minimizing your downside. And we teach you all about that inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link in the description below. So all you need to do to learn strategies like this is put your information in on the link below to get the book. That's step one. As soon as you click send my free ebook, so we know which email to send it to, it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. That ebook will be sent to your email inbox, and you can watch this video right here.
The world's largest billionaires.
Where I break down for you in like 10 to 15 minutes what's happening in the crypto market right now as we speak, and how you could be able to benefit, leverage the information, leverage the education, and master crypto. Guys, we got everything that you need to know. Come in here, introduce yourself to the community. We have 5,800 comments right here. You're going to see these tabs at the top that have announcements, general discussion, market updates every single day, different altcoin picks as well too. They have 5, 10, 20, 50x potential, DeFi yield picks, like what I just showed you through DeFi liquidity pools, different airdrop picks to be able to get free money from these protocols just by using their platforms, and then additional news and community picks as well too from some whales in our community. And if you guys have any questions about the crypto market, XRP, different altcoins you hold in your portfolio, you can go into the Q&A section and you can ask those questions and get them answered from our research team. Now, I'm not going to show you that just because of privacy reasons. Some people don't want their name shown, but right now we have about 945 members from all around the world. And so people are posting their wins constantly with these DeFi yield strategies. For example, this one was 5% returns in 1 week. And over the course of a month, this pays for the $97 membership for Altcoin Pro University. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that you guys are going to make any money because your results may vary. And legally, I just can't make any promises because, when I show you what's worked for me, that doesn't mean that it'll work for you. Obviously, you understand that. You're very intelligent. But our goal is to equip you guys with the knowledge and the information, the resources, so that way you can be able to better navigate the crypto market. So run through all these trainings in here. Click on any of these tabs. You're going to see that we have dozens of videos walking you through this information, these strategies step by step. And let me know your feedback in the comments below. If you got value out of this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more. And as always, you know what to do. Stay bullish.